But I took a 30-day leave and then went to Germany and did serve my 6 years in the military and got out right before Desert Shield started. I got my discharge papers. And when I got back to Southern California after being in the military, I started my entrepreneurial journey. I started a little freelance programming business doing database programming for, I ended up landing a really good gig for a preferred provider organization. Was like, yeah, I'm done. This is kind of cool. I could live this life. This is all right. And I landed my next big client, and me and some buddies went out to celebrate. And we were shooting pool. I was big, I almost say pool hustler. I enjoyed playing pool a lot and occasionally made bets on the game. And so we're out there celebrating this new client, and I'm telling the story. And I'm at this place. It's this really little, I'll call it a little podunk bar. It's a little bar, 3 pool tables and a couple of barmaids, and we're shooting it up. And the guy who owns the place, I ended up being a friend of his afterwards, breaks out some meth. He goes, this will probably help you get that project done a whole lot faster. And I had never done it. I was very reluctant to do any drugs. I probably smoked pot once from a toothache growing up, but that just wasn't really never my scene. And I tried it, and I went home, and I got more programming done that night than I'd probably done in about 3 weeks' time. For obvious reasons, right? We know the effects of this stuff has. And I'm like, oh my God, all the things I could get done doing this. And,
I just recently saw Breaking Bad, so I get it. I get this.
Yeah, and you've seen Blow, right, with Johnny Depp?
Yes, I have.
All right, so this is that same era, that right around that same time frame, in the same area, right? So it was everywhere, and and it's all fun and games in the beginning, but as things as things progress, you need more and more to get that same feeling, right? And in the meantime, because you're so focused on getting more and more, I let the business fall away. And so the money I was getting there, I needed to replace it to support my habit. So I started selling, right? And because I have this big fear of going to jail, I have no desire to go to jail. I don't want to do it. And I believe in law and everything. I started getting people to sell for me.
Right. So
basically, I became a drug dealer, for lack of a better phrase, and probably ran those dark side of Southern California streets for about 2 years, until one point where the 5-0 literally kicked my door open to my condo, because I had gotten so deep, and somebody ratted me out, and luckily I had left on that the Thursday before. This all happened on a Sunday. I had left the Thursday before to go out with a friend, and I was on a 4-day run. I was on this 4-day party binge, and Sunday morning I'd come back to my condo to find the door kicked open. And literally this one is just like the movies. You walk in, there's stuff thrown everywhere. The furniture's all tossed on end. You go around and you look, and there were Fruity Pebbles and instant potatoes poured out on the kitchen counter and on the floor as they were looking for stuff. They didn't find anything, which is why I didn't go to jail. And I wasn't there when it happened. And luckily, my new 4-month-old daughter also was not there. She was with grandma that weekend. So I lucked out. And while I'm in there trying to straighten things up, 2 detectives knock on the door, show their shield, and introduce themselves and say, are you Tracy Brinkmann? Yes, I am, and everything. Can we see some ID? Now, let's pause. I usually carried my ID in my briefcase and only took it out and put it in my pocket when I go into a bar so I would have it. And so, remember I said I went out on a Thursday night. Well, when I went out that Thursday night, I went with a friend of mine to go to the shooting range. Southern California, no, there's no concealed carry unless you're law enforcement.
Right.
As we're leaving the shooting range, I asked my buddy, I said, I want to come back tomorrow. He says, well, I'm not sure I'm going to be able to come back. I said, well, can I borrow your guns to go back to the shooting range? I don't own any guns. And he had a .357 Magnum and one of those Clint Eastwood style 45s, right? Those, do you feel lucky punk, right? And he said, yeah, sure. Just make sure you get them back to me over the weekend. Yeah, no problem. I'll drive by your house and drop them off. They're in my briefcase with my wallet, my ID. The detectives say, can we see your ID? Sure, no problem. It's right over here in my briefcase. I'm not thinking. I'm just trying to be Mr. Joe Good Citizen. And I open up my briefcase, and I get it probably 3 inches open. And, the detectives, being trained like they are, they're taking their position. He sees in the briefcase the glint of one, probably both of the silver weapons, yells guns, tackles me to the floor, and handcuffs me into a couple of swift moves. Don't blame him. If I was in their shoes, I probably would have done the exact same thing. Right. So they take me downtown, and they start out, of course, they let me sit and sweat for a while, and pull me into an interrogation room and begin asking all the right questions. They knew all the right names. They knew way too many things about my life and my circle of friends. And I'm like, no, I don't know who that is. If I seen him, I don't know him by name. Maybe he's at the bar I hang out at, playing the dumbass, so to speak.
Right.